And guess what? We're on business. Yes. Thank you, Jason, for helping troubleshoot all of this. We appreciate all of you all for making it out here tonight. And we're going to try to race through these introductions so that we can dive into the topics. But as you know, this is Downtown Orlando UX. We want to thank Starter Studio. Oh, and it is okay to record, by the way. So we will be recording tonight. If anyone wants to censor themselves when they ask questions, that's okay. But yeah, we'll be recording, and we do want to thank Starter Studio for the facilities here. It's a beautiful location, and you know, things happen. So everyone, we appreciate your flexibility with the timing here, and we'll do our best to try to stay on time as well. Also, we just kind of want to let you all know what Downtown Orlando UX is all about. We're about bringing people awareness for usability and user experience to the Central Florida community. But since we went hybrid, it can be anywhere. We've had people from London and people from California and all over the place. So that's pretty cool. How many people do we have online right now, Jason?
13 so far.
So we've got 13 people here, and one of our panelists is also remote right now. She's coming to us from Atlanta. We'll do those introductions in a second. But yeah, it's opportunities to learn and share knowledge about the field of user experience, and we appreciate you all being here. And you're all advocates for UX as well, so thank you for being a part of this great community. And I think we already said thanks, but we do have our co-organizers here. So we've got Amy over here in the corner. We've got Matt, who is our founder of our group. Jason running the tech show over here. Thank you very much. Myself, Wes Brown, and then Abhishek is not here right now. He's traveling, and that's our group. We've also got some folks that help with planning some of the events. If you did anything tonight, feel free to stand up, raise your hand. But if you're wanting to connect, that's just let us know and we can make things happen. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you're online, we'd love to see your faces. We're gonna not keep slides up, so we're just gonna be asking some questions. So if we can see you on the screen, that would be awesome. And feel free to ask questions in the chat as well, and we'll see if we can get to those. And raise your hand. We'll try to monitor that as well. All right, and so our panel discussion is finding, selecting, and working with UX recruiters. We've got a few of those folks in the room tonight, which is awesome. And a lot of times we have them here at the events as well. So TEKsystems is renowned for being here, which is awesome. And we're gonna meet the panel tonight. We've got Ahna Schamore. She is here, and I think we're gonna come on. I'm gonna try being like the guy from The Price is Right. Ahna, come on down. You are the next contestant on Downtown Orlando UX. And we've also got Brooke Milchman. Yeah, and then remote, we've got Sofia Krasny, and each of these folks, we'll go into a little bit more detail about them. If you don't mind sliding to the next slide there, Jason. Just want to make sure I cover the details the best I can. By the way, that said that folks are listed in alphabetical order, so no preference here. But Ahna is with Kforce. She's a client relationship director. The best way to reach Ahna is via her email or LinkedIn, and we do have a QR code there for her LinkedIn. So if you're interested, we are recording this too, so you can grab that afterwards if you want. But Ahna has been recruiting for 7 years and has been recognized by Kforce with Company MVP Award for their Kforce Orlando and Jacksonville office during the challenging times of COVID too. So that's pretty tremendous. Those were tough times for a lot of folks, and thank you all for what you're doing. And then she's a graduate of Western Kentucky University with a BA in advertising, public relations, and applied communications. So very close to the kind of space that we're in. And then Brooke has been recruiting for 2 years, specializing in web content, marketing, and design. She's placed both her sister and boyfriend on contracts with Disney. She covered that a second ago too, and EA Sports. She was born and raised here in Orlando, and she doesn't say that, but go Knights. That's right. So she is a UCF Knight. And Sofia Krasny is in the Atlanta area. She works with Synergis, and she started her career in UX staffing services He's being tricky here. 10 years. Yeah. I'm gonna try to make this up. 10 years ago in Atlanta is now working with enterprise clients nationwide. She's helped Synergis build a UX capabilities practice and since has partnered to build balanced teams for diverse ranges of product spaces within Fortune 100 companies, including the Home Depot, which is where I work with Sofia today. And also, I do know each of these folks through the meetups here. TEKsystems, of course, is a Central Florida, it has roots in Central Florida. And Ahna, I met at Advent Health, so she has helped place people there as well. So thank you both. Thank you all for being a part of the panel. And we're going to kick off some things. And I'm going to sit down here too, so we can feel like all like cozy. I hope that I still will be on cameras. All right, so let me see. Maybe we can stop. Yeah, if you don't mind, Jason. I'm going to dive into the questions while Jason pulls things up. And this one is kind of a basic one, but each of you in your companies have been recruiting for UX for quite some time. We just covered that. Tell us a little bit about your team and company in respect to UX design job placement. Do you guys focus on vertical or industry or broader types? And what's the typical size of your UX recruiting team? And we do have another mic down here. You guys can and, I think I'll toss it to Sofia first, if we could, because, we want to, you haven't been standing in the room while we've been trying to connect a bunch of wires.
That's totally fine.
But thank you for your patience too, Sofia.
Absolutely, absolutely. I apologize if you hear like stomping, running back and forth. I've got a 4-year-old that's playing upstairs. So, well, I'm Sofia. I work with Synergis, and the question was about our team, correct?
Yes.
So at Synergis, we do things a little bit differently. We have a team that specializes just in UX. So I have a team of 10 different recruiters that specialize in specific verticals in that. So what I mean is we do skill set recruiting. So I have one recruiter that focuses on research capabilities. I have one recruiter that focuses just on UX architecture. I have one recruiter that focuses on just accessibility. One that's just on service design. So it allows us to be able to kind of go deep and wide within essentially the nation, because we're a nationwide provider. And really, it doesn't depend on industry or vertical. It really just, we work with anybody that's looking to build balanced teams. So that could be, your larger retailers. I know Wes said that I'm partnering with Home Depot for the last 9 years. Or it could be, your small digital agencies when you're thinking more like marketing agencies, and that can be a lot heavier in an interaction side or more front end side. So our team is about 10 just within our UX vertical.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll just move across here. So we'll let Ahna take it next and then go to Brooke.
So our team, we have about 9 recruiters dedicated in the IT department. Overall, we work with all types of clients, whether it's enterprise, small, medium, or large. And we do work with some vertical clients, but kind of like Sofia said, we work with all clients who need us. And then also, like she said, some digital advertising agencies as well.
I'd say pretty similar. We have about 100 people on our digital and creative team. About 50 of those do kind of specialize within the UX field, and that does range from designer, UX design, UX research, everything in between. And it's kind of the same. We kind of work vertical industry, everything in between. We work with Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100. So definitely, kind of varies across, some startups all the way up to, Meta and Disney and all of that stuff. So, yeah, a little bit about our size.
Very cool. So we've got a good distribution of folks here. And, this is like a super competitive market right now. And there can sometimes be like predatory behavior with things. And so how do you guys recommend, like you all are amazing, but we're all getting connected by people on LinkedIn every day. There are recruiters hitting us up and talking to us. And I know before we started, like you were talking about some of the other recruiters that you run into out there, but can you recommend how you would select, how a candidate could select a recruiter and know that the ones that they're working with is a good potential fit for them?
Absolutely. It definitely has to do with relationships. At the end of the day, I think, and what we're doing has to do with relationships overall. So I think it just depends on your connection with a recruiter or with a recruiting company, to learn about the history that maybe that person has with a specific company that you're trying to target. There's definitely, they're titled transactional recruiters where they're coming to you just for one specific position. Or there's the relationship recruiters where they actually want to build rapport with you, learn about your background, what's important to you, and be able to provide a couple positions based off of your needs, what's most important to you. So at the end of the day, it's just about the relationship and who you feel most comfortable with. At the end of the day, when you take a position, you're representing yourself and that company, and that's something you always want to be proud of. So definitely about the relationship that you have, what that company can provide overall. There's a big package that kind of has to do with all of it. So
I agree with what you said completely. It's all about the relationship. And I don't know about predatorial being the right word, because I do feel like at the end of the day, we both, and Sofia, I'm sure as well, we both have, want to do what's ever in your best interest. So that's what's most important, is helping you find a job and working with the right client that's best suited for you.
Yeah, I think, when we're talking about predatorial, I would say it's really less on the recruiting firm right now. And we all know the market right now. I mean, it's no lie that it's very candidate driven. There's a lot of candidates in the market right now. There's not as many positions. The other thing is, as much as it's about relationships, you want to make sure that there's different companies that work with different clients. I don't work with all the same clients that these two ladies work with. So there really isn't too much of a competitive drive when it comes to working with each recruiter, as it is, hey, maybe someone's working with Disney and they have a closer relationship than I do. It really depends on the opportunity at hand too. So I wouldn't say, in this market, and just in all honesty, because I know you guys are all looking for good positions and the best next step in your career. You could very well work with multiple relationships on this and multiple recruiters, because I may have a very different relationship with Home Depot than Kforce does or TEKsystems does. We all work with similar contacts as well. And not even just companies though, but also contacts within that company. We have relationships with different hiring managers throughout all different types of product spaces. And I may not be working with the product space that maybe one of my other vendor competitors does. So that's a big piece of it too, is really pick up the call with any recruiter right now, because there, of course, are some, like she mentioned, that are more transactional, that are looking at just getting a head count and trying to fill a position. And it maybe not be the best fit on your part for that position. But you really can start when you're building that relationship piece, you really can understand if that recruiter knows what they're talking about in the role too. Are they using buzzwords? Are they just saying, hey, can you do UX? Or are they really walking you through on what the day-to-day of the role is? What's the product? What the stakeholders you're going to be working with? What's the balanced team look like? What's their culture? If they can walk you in, walk you through so you can walk in that first day and know what you're getting yourself into from a day-to-day perspective, that's a great recruiter. And so I would definitely advise all of you right now, especially in this market where you're getting lost in applicant systems and things like that, to really build relationships with multiple vendors right now and not worry so much about the predatorial piece, because at the end of the day, we have a system behind the scenes that says who you're going to be able to work with when we work with that client, whether we have a right to rep. You'll see those types of terminologies hit your way. So definitely build multiple relationships in this environment.
Very cool. So Sofia, you just touched on something about like the systems that are out there and that kind of thing. And we hear more and more about designing your resume for automated recruitment systems and those processes.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that being practiced by a lot of companies? Is it something, I know working with a recruiter, maybe you all are looking at it, but any kind of thoughts on that?
Sure. So we all are very well aware about the, automation that comes with these robots of these applicant tracking systems. And a lot of times when you're looking at these postings that come, whether it's on LinkedIn or on their websites, Some of them we don't even know are real postings. Some of them could be postings that they're putting for future jobs. Some of them could be postings that they're legally required to put to internally promote somebody that may be already in that seat. It also comes with, I know we see LinkedIn, we see thousands of applicants that have already applied onto a position. So unfortunately, that's a huge challenge in the market right now when it comes to applying to a job directly. In the recruiting company, we always obviously want that ownership of that candidate to say, we found you, we want to be able to put you into that slot. But it really is one of those things where working recruiter can put you on that person's desk and can share your story and your why and what you're looking for. And so that's kind of where it is a better advantage right now to work with a recruiting company than it is to just apply, because unfortunately you're going to get lost in a system. And a lot of these internal recruiters too, the reason why they use companies like us three ladies is because their internal talent act may not even know the skill set and may not even know what to look for in a resume and just see the keyword UX and wireframes and then just do a simple Boolean search and just pick those resumes, and it might not be the best person. So unfortunately, that's the name of the game right now with these applicant tracking systems. But I heavily advise you, being able to, yes, apply, but being able to use someone like us to be able to help you get on that manager's desk.
Great. Do you all want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, I would just add
Sure.
kind of what she said as well. I think that you should continue to work with multiple recruiters because of the way the job market is. And if you are applying for another job directly, just make sure you're kind of keeping track of what jobs you're applying for. So that way, if you are working with a recruiter, they're not putting your resume on that manager's desk as well, because sometimes managers will just throw out that resume if, it comes through twice. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Good point.
Yeah, I'd say that's exactly kind of what she was saying. It's tough to go on LinkedIn and seeing over 200 applicants. And that's why kind of if you're new to working with recruiters or anything, instead of being in a pile of 500, you're suddenly in a pile of 10. And that's just something to kind of always keep in mind when you're going through that. It is true, the keyword searches using AI and everything. I mean, that's how a lot of, companies are looking for. They type in their top 5 things that they want to see. And if you've got Figma on there, well, great. If not, then you're just pushed to the side. It is true. It's kind of the way that it is. So yeah, use all your resources that you can. We just got to work around the technology that we've got. So just working out other ways in your resources is kind of the best way to go.
All right. So thank you all for that, by the way. Building on that, with so many people applying for the same jobs, you talk about hundreds that you see on LinkedIn. How do you all go about identifying a good candidate? Are there any red flags that we should avoid? And how do I stand out as a designer to you all?
I could start.
Sure, you get the mic.
So,
Why not, Brooke? Go
yeah.
for it.
So obviously as a designer, your portfolio is your story to a degree. Of course, who you are and the conversations that we have outside of it more gives us your why. And that's always important to have those conversations with your, recruiter, because if you're wanting to work on a completely new project or a rebrand or something like that, we need to know that versus kind of doing a different, maybe machine learning transformation that you're not comfortable with or anything. Just understanding your why is always a good part of it, but your portfolio definitely speaks on your behalf. So as tough as it is, I wouldn't know, I'm not a designer, but as tough as it is to update your portfolio and stay on top of updating it, it's extremely important because that does, showcase that. So, kind of, especially with portfolios, make sure you're kind of showcasing your workflow. Screenshots are great, but we need more than that just to showcase, that beginning to end is really important. And as weird as this sounds, make sure your portfolio works, make sure your link works. That happens a lot. And obviously we can't really proceed with that. So just make sure it's working on everything. But no, just be transparent, understanding your why. And your portfolio is going to kind of speak to a lot of what you're doing.
I would say the same thing. That's what I was going to say before you even started talking. But yeah, the portfolio is a big thing. Like she said, we come across a lot of portfolios sometimes that don't even work. So definitely make sure that's working. But also with that being up to date, also make sure that matches your LinkedIn as well. And that's up to date as well as your resume. And and she said, you know, you need to be transparent, and that's always what it's going to be. Honesty is the best policy, they say, right? So just be transparent with your experience. If you don't have the experience, don't put that on your resume. And if you do put it on your resume, make sure when you do go on an interview, you're able to explain how you used it, what you did, and how you accomplished what you accomplished with that tool.
Sophia, anything to add there?
Sure. Some red flags that I see on resumes, besides the portfolio, a lot of clients I have, they hate to see when you sell yourself short and you give yourself a pie chart. We don't want to see that you do 20% wires or you're only 80% good at information architecture, or you're only 30% good at research. Don't sell yourself short. Be able, when you're looking at a resume too, activities are great. You did wireframes, you did research and discovery. But what was the impact? How did that help the business? How did that help your team? What was the solution that you delivered? And what was the outcome? I think we miss a lot of times on when we're doing our portfolios and our resumes is we show a lot of process, but you guys, not you guys, because it's not you guys, but people forget the outcome in general, and then how it impacted their stakeholders. And at the end of the day, when we're putting you into an enterprise environment or we're putting you in any team, we want to know why that solution was the right solution, and maybe it wasn't. And that's okay if it's not. Put your challenges. Why did you start designing this 6 months and then pivot and have something come up that made you had to reiterate? And then this is how it impacted the business, and this was the right solution at the end of the day. Switching to portfolios, it's good to see but who was the team you worked with? I think a lot of times we take some of the involvement that we did it from a team perspective, and maybe you didn't do the research, and that's okay. But knowing that you worked with a researcher, or knowing that you worked with product management, knowing that you worked with development, all this shows that you know how to collaborate with a balanced team, which is very important when we're looking at like a lean agile model. The other thing I would say too is, from a resume perspective, because we always skip over resume. I know we talk a lot about portfolios, and that speaks, the process, but we don't need a 4-page resume, especially if you have less than 5 years. You don't need to send that much content, right? Like, really think about just being able to put maybe 4 bullets under each experience on, hey, this is who I did, this is the team I was working with, and this is the impact we made. Keep it short. I think a lot of folks kind of just run with it because they want to say, this is what I did, and I want to make sure all of those buzzwords, unfortunately, are in it. But that's okay. That's what, a recruiter is supposed to do, is to sell you on more of the story. So don't worry about having such a lengthy resume, because I guarantee it will be looked over. We all know that we have goldfish brains, right? So and we've all seen heat maps before. They're going to do the same thing with your resume. So just keep that in mind.
I wanted to add one thing. Statistics, kind of exactly what she was saying. Like, numbers can definitely like paint a story sometimes. So that's something kind of helpful to add on, is going over the analytics of kind of what you've done. That's really big. It does kind of tell a story. So wanted to add on to kind of what she said. That's exactly a really good thing to add on to your resume.
Yeah, and kind of going back to how do we know we should work with a recruiter or not? I haven't worked directly with you, but I have with Ahna and Sofia, and they spend a lot of time with the hiring manager. So they get to understand what it is, exactly what we're looking for. So they can help you understand what it is. And they're not going to coach you on, oh, well, tell them this. At least a good one's not. And if somebody does ask you to do something that you haven't done, or tell you, oh, say this because that'll get you hired, they're not representing you in the best way, because you don't want to get into a job that you can't do, right? That's the last thing that you want. So working with these guys is tremendously beneficial, because I know that they're representing me. So any resume they're sending to me, or a candidate that they're sending to me, they 100% stand behind. And it may not work out each time, and meaning that like they send 5 and we pick 1, right? It's just how it goes. But it really is a big benefit. And I wanted to touch on that. While you guys were talking, you made me think of that. Is there anything, like we mentioned a little bit about, if you don't have a lot of experience, is there any advice that you can give to the group here that maybe is just starting off on their UX journey? Maybe we'll start with you, Brooke, since you've got the mic.
LinkedIn can definitely be a great place to network, and just kind of connecting with as many people as possible and just touching different projects that you're able to do. If you're able to shadow someone, whether that's a researcher or a designer, just to kind of get your hands on something, it's just great, experience to have, because at the end of the day, not only is that something that you potentially could add onto your portfolio, of course, if you ended up touching and doing something with it, but it was just another network add, another relationship that could end up guiding you into the right direction. Freelancing, definitely it's tough to get out there and tough to find someone that will, bite, but just kind of using your resources to the best that you can, of course, doing all the courses and boot camps, you're doing the best that you can, networking, it's whatever you can do to just kind of be able to just shadow people and just continuously learn. You never know when that might just kind of open the door.
I would say the same thing. It's all about networking. And it's great that all of you all are here today because you get to meet so many different people that are, aligned with your career goals. So just continue to network. Don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn, ask them to grab coffee with you, pick their brain, see what kind of tools, that they think that you would need to continue your career and growing that career, I think is really important as well.
Sophia, you want to add something?
Sure. Wes, I'll always add something. Come on, you know me. I'm like, what am I gonna add? I'm in sales. When it comes to, I really like the freelancing idea. I've seen a lot of people moonlight and take on some projects that maybe they don't have experience in their day-to-day that they're doing now. Like say you want to move into more research capability and you're just on heavy visual design, right? Being able to take some case studies and build that out, even if you don't have the opportunity. If you want to work for a company, maybe like Home Depot, go in store, do some research, look around, see what they're doing, and try to see if, hey, maybe I've seen a challenge that maybe I want to attack and I can build a case study on. Go look at some websites that maybe companies you want to work with, and identify some problems that you may see and say like, hey, I think they could convert, look at their accessibility issues they're having. There's so many things that you could be able to build case studies on. And that kind of brings me to one more point besides just I don't have the experience. The other thing we run into a lot, and maybe this is more on like a mid-level senior position, but they have the experience, but they can't share it due to proprietary information that's on there. That happens all the time. And so my best advice on that piece is still build those case studies, maybe strip some of the branding, maybe strip some of the proprietary information to at least show your capabilities. Don't put it on your website. Don't put it on your portfolio. I know there's password protected, but something that maybe you can even share in an interview and walk through a live to say like, hey, this is some of the things that I've been able to hit on. As long as you're able to kind of strip, of course, the branding pieces of it, I mean, it should at least show some of your capabilities. So for junior level, like, again, get out there and network. That's how I learned about UX 10 years ago. People love to talk about what they're doing, especially in the UX world. They're very passionate people. They want to talk about how they're improving lives. Talk about what they're doing and see if that's something that maybe you could, like she mentioned, shadow or maybe build your own case study off of.
That's great. And, we talked a little bit about freelancing, but also contracting is a thing. And you all place contracting positions too, right? Maybe you can give us a little bit of the pros and cons of being a contractor versus getting placed full-time. Are there some benefits or thoughts that you all have around that? Sophia, we'll just throw it back to you and see what you think.
Yeah, no problem. I think contracting has changed a lot in the last 5 to 10 years. I think we used to think of contracting like freelancing, gig work. But I think in this market, in this environment, especially after the pandemic, it's really transitioned more to these more longer term engagement, really more stability, more full-time opportunities. Some contracts that we're working on are 3+ years, and that's easily could be a full-time job for you at any other company, within one product space. So there's different types of contracts that are out there, and it very much depends on, again, the recruiter that you're working with and what type of agreements they have, the client, why they need a contractor. I think that's another important thing is what's the need? Is it a maternity leave coverage, or is it something that's more of a contract to hire? So I wouldn't sell contracts short from full-time right now. I think 10 years ago, we did that. It was full-time is stability, contract is not, it's freelance. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're seeing a lot of layoffs happen, right? Those are full-time folks.
those aren't a lot of contract folks too. Everybody's kind of in the same environment here. I think really what you need to look at in this market is, what is the product space? Is it going to help you get into your next step of your career, whether it's full-time contract? And the longevity of it too. It could be a long-term contract to hire where they do a try before they buy for you, but it's also a try before you buy for you, your experience as well. If you like that company, if you like that team, or maybe you want to move or get your foot in the door and move into another product space. So I would very much say it's changing. It's ever evolving right now on how companies are using contract talent. And really that just depends on the opportunity and who you work with.
You guys want to add something? Go ahead, Ahna.
I'll go ahead. Thank you. So I agree with her with contracting. It has changed a lot. And a lot of times our clients will come to us and say they need a contractor for a certain project that they're working on. And a lot of times they say it's going to be 6 months, but just like she said, it can continue on and on and on. Even, I have some contractors that are still working with Kforce now that have been with us for over 5 years at this point. And a lot of contracting companies do offer full benefits as well. So I don't want anyone to not think that's not a part of, being a contractor too, because a lot of us do have that for you guys when you are on contract, and you get exposed to so many different teams, different projects if you do work multiple contracts as well. And you really get a chance to, like she said, try before you buy and make sure that company is going to be the right fit for you.
Yeah, you really nailed it. I was going to say something that a lot of people assume when they hear about contract is no benefits. I was going to include that. And it is true. That's always ask, a recruiter if you're talking to them, we do provide benefits, you as well. So, that's definitely a stipulation, but put that out of your head. There's definitely those options out there. And contract, it definitely can be really scary for some people. But some incredible companies do contracts, and that is, amazing to put on your portfolio, amazing to put on your resume. You get to touch some amazing, projects that are going on. I mean, Amazon is a really big one right now that just has a million different, with Amazon Prime, with video, their podcast. I mean, there's so many different, projects that a lot of people are getting to work on right now. And just to add something like that into your resume and your portfolio only is going to open up more doors at the end of the day. So definitely like a couple questions when it comes to contract, but really your opportunities that you kind of are able to step into and grow, they kind of become a little endless. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for contract too, just so you understand like the bulk of contract, some companies, they want a ratio, and they have half their workforce of their company is contract employees. So a lot of times it's not just insert one here, one in another team, but some companies have to manage specific ratios just for their own company values and their stakeholders. So you could literally look at a company that 50% of their workforce is contractors. So it's definitely elevated. And again, with the benefits too, some companies can make it a full-time package for you and give you PTO and give you a 401k. It's definitely not a cookie cutter mold anymore.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to another question here. Going back a little bit to the skill sets that we see on the resume. Are you guys seeing any like UX trends out there, or skill sets and experience that people are looking for, like a specialist or a unicorn kind of role? And how do you recommend people try to position themselves?
Accessibility is huge right now. So doing what you can to get as knowledgeable as possible in that is very large, even if that's just taking some courses or just getting an understanding. That is really big. It is very, I would say, skill set wise. Of course, you may have certain specialties. Industry backgrounds is a really big thing, especially when it comes to like healthcare. Having specific backgrounds has gotten very specific. Even if you just come from healthcare, there may be some companies that are like, need the healthcare background, but we also need you to come from like patient portal experience as well. So sometimes companies are getting very specific on like a specific project that you've worked on. Tools as well. Figma, do you have that Figma experience? How long do you have that experience? What were you able to use in that? Have you created a design system? Just kind of everything in between. So I think it can be very niche sometimes. I think it just kind of depends on the specific project that they're kind of bringing you on for.
What Wes said earlier too, we have a call every time we get a new position with the manager, and we discuss thoroughly on what type of projects they're going to be working on and what kind of skill sets the manager is looking for. And it really just depends on the company that you're working with. But like she said, industry experience is really important to a lot of the companies we work with. A lot of hospitality clients want to see hospitality backgrounds, and the same with healthcare, because that can be very niche as well.
Sophia, trying to look at the camera.
I think the biggest thing to think about too, besides just specific to the product, is we're seeing UX shift and create new levels. We're seeing principal levels. We're seeing different skill sets build out too, as people are getting more empathy for an enterprise product environment. So, I think we all looked at the shiny object of responsive web years ago, and now it's flipping to more like employee experience and internal users, and less of just your .com and your B2B. So anything that you can share regarding the different types of users that you're working with can very well change the type of product that you can be working on. Industry also, if you don't have that specific industry experience, maybe it could be a relative product, or it could be a discovery product. Maybe it's not something that's version 2 or version 3, but you're looking to do discovery work and you're building something from new. All that can speak volumes too, that you're able to identify your user and be able to scope something out. When we're talking about skill sets, I'm definitely seeing, like you said, accessibility is a hot one right now. I think the spectrum of UX is kind of expanding a little bit more. We're seeing a lot more service design. So as people are starting to look through their enterprise applications, maybe someone that's not building a new product itself, but looking at their tools, their vendor tools that they're using, and what new features, what new trends can we add to this? We hear machine learning and automation. Is that something that the tools that we have right now are capable of? Or are these tools that we have in our company, are they the right tools that we're using? So I think system design, system thinking is a little bit more niche that we're seeing more of, and less of just, hey, this is a shopping cart, it's on the right hand side, the home button's on the left. It's evolving more. So I would recommend, like, if you don't have those skills, continue to go to these events, continue to learn people that are in more niche markets, so that you can try to plug in and hear about where the trends are going and what companies are working on. That will help you be able to speak a little bit more on your relative experience.
Kind of similar to the trends that we're seeing, are you all placing more people in remote positions, or hybrid, or on-site, on-premise? With Sophia, we'll throw it back to
Everybody
you.
wants to hear remote. Everybody wants to hear us 100% remote and only remote. I think we're all hearing more and more return to work, whether that's hybrid, a 2-day a week, whether you're not local, they want you to come once a month. I think that collaboration piece is coming more and more into play. Also real estate costs for a lot of these companies that have large buildings that are empty right now. But if I will say, if you want to look for 100% remote, don't go looking for a company that has in-store associates, that have users that are on site every single day, because I think that builds into their core values. And so it comes back to, well, let's go look in banking. If their bankers are at the bank every single day, they're going to somehow wind it down so that those remote employees come back in, because they want to make sure that they're making it equitable, right? So we're seeing more of those conversations of, hey, our stakeholders are here, some of our employees are in different locations. It's starting to trend back to more of an in-office environment. That's what I'm seeing, at least. I think that can be different for you guys as well.
That's why we have a panel. That's awesome.
That's right.
Thank you.
No, I agree with you. That's definitely what we're seeing. A lot of clients are starting to go back on site. Even if they are remote, they are still, going back on site at least 2 days a week. But I think it's important to be open to all, because companies are, all doing something different. But every job that is posted online right now, 80% of those jobs are hybrid or on site. So it's important to be open to that because it's only gonna, discount you from getting an opportunity that could be perfect for you.
Yeah, not much more to add. I actually did a little research in our system. In the past year, we had around 2,000 UX positions, and about like 58% of them were remote. So just kind of do the rest of that math on the 52%, 48%. Oh my God, hello? Guys, it's almost my bedtime.
We'll edit that out. We'll edit that out.
Are back on hybrid. So definitely just something to keep in mind. Of course, you have like your own, needs and everything, but definitely start to keep it in mind. You don't want to close a door that could really lead you to an incredible future.
All right. Yes. 48%. She's a knight. She's a knight, right? Yes. No, it's awesome. This is great. There's, I think we're going to open it up and see, how are we doing on time? Jason?
So another 15 minutes or so.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one last question and then see, maybe we'll ask you all if you have a couple of questions, you'll see what we can do. And maybe we'll specifically ask a person so that we can keep it time sensitive. But we asked you guys a lot of stuff here. What one piece of advice would you like to reiterate, or something else that you want to share that we didn't talk about tonight that you could give? And I didn't prompt you all for that one, so hey. Sophia, we'll go to you first. Look at you in the camera here.
I think right now, the best piece of advice I can give for a candidate-driven market, that's what we're calling it right now, is to be open and listen to all opportunities. Do not close a door right now. Do not close a door on a recruiter. Do not close a door on, an interview. All that's practice. I think very quickly we erase ourselves from an opportunity if it's, the pay doesn't meet it immediately. It's not remote. And maybe it's a shorter term contract that can have a little bit more risk. Maybe it's a full-time position. Maybe it's a relocation position. I think be very open right now, because things can change very quickly. Managers can get more budget. Managers can make exceptions on candidates that they think that you're such a top quality candidate. They're willing to go outside of their location to hire you. Right now, the market, they know there's more candidates on the market than there are opportunity. So everybody's being very picky on the talent that they're choosing. And so give yourself a competitive edge. Don't roll yourself out of the market immediately on a couple dollars. So that's the best advice I would give right now, and just in this current stage.
Yeah, I'd say be vulnerable, and that's totally okay, especially if you're kind of starting out. Like someone mentioned, like going out and getting coffee with someone, like be vulnerable, like put yourself out there, ask to shadow, just ask for different opportunities, just be open to feedback, be open to just, networking. Exactly what you're doing now might have been a big step for maybe one of you tonight to come out of here, but you're being vulnerable and putting yourself potentially in a great position, and you never know what could come from this. So yeah, that's kind of my advice.
I would have to say that's my biggest piece of advice too, is just continue to network, especially in the job market right now. Managers are being very selective, and there's fewer jobs than there are candidates. So sometimes it's all about who you know. And then also I just wanted to add that just make sure you're staying up with the times. Keep your profiles up to date and your portfolio up to date with new technologies that are coming out, and kind of see the trends in the market and where they're going. So that's the only other piece of advice I would give.
Awesome. That was tremendous. I think I'm going to open it up now to the group here, and who knows what we will get asked. We've got a question all the way over here in the corner, so see you guys in a minute.
Thanks. My name is Ever Williams, EVER. My question is, I actually am in the final interview round, and it's going to be tomorrow. If any of you have any tips, I'd highly appreciate that.
I love that. That's
Congratulations.
awesome. Yeah, that's
Go ahead, Sophia.
okay. My biggest interview tip with any client, it doesn't matter what it is if you don't know the STAR method, look it up. It is absolutely critical when you're having discussions with hiring managers to understand what the STAR method is. You can literally Google it, but essentially it walks you through on how to position what you did, how you did it, who you worked with, and what the solution is. And I think a lot of times when we are in interviews, we're very redundant and we talk about our activities, but again, we miss the outcomes. And I know I mentioned that earlier, but if you don't know what STAR method is, Google it tonight. There's like, I mean, literally you'll see like a million infographics, and definitely take that with your interview tomorrow. It doesn't matter what the interview is, it works.
That is great advice. Just for over here in the corner, it's a little bit quiet. So what Sofia recommended was the STAR method. If you haven't used that, that's situation, task, action, and result. It is definitely worth, it's something you can apply even when you're having conversations with people. If you find yourself kind of running on whenever you're in a meeting and that kind of thing, apply the STAR method to what you're doing. Talk about what the situation is, what tasks and activities do you need to do, and then what result are you hoping for or happened. That can be really meaningful. So I second that. What about you guys? Or wait, anyone else here have some questions before I trek across the room? Oh, we've got one online here. Okay, so we'll let
Daniel asked if I could read it for him. Daniel asks, I had to quit a recent job because of a bad manager that wasn't watching out for my best interests, so I only worked at the company for a few months. How should I explain that to prospects? I'm afraid that'll come off as me not being a team player.
I'm thinking.
I
Yeah,
would,
that's
a really, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ahna.
Go ahead.
Where was
You go ahead, Sophia.
Okay, my best advice is I think there's a lot of, they say there's a triangle. There's like your leadership, your money, and then what you do, right? You can only choose two. I don't believe that, but that's sometimes where it goes. Bad managers, unfortunately, they happen, but I would highly advise not using that as a reason why you're looking for another job. A lot of our clients, when they hear bad management style, it kind of loses the luster of why you want to work there and what's your reasoning behind working for that specific company. Unfortunately, you already kind of hit the nail on the head. It can come off a little bit awkward. We don't know what the situation is. You are more than welcome to share that with your recruiter. That's what the relationship piece is. And then that's for us to be able to make sure that we don't put you in that same culture and we know that manager. But in the interview process, I highly recommend never mentioning that the reason why you left is because of a bad manager or because they were, if you had any conflict with them.
Yeah, just to add to that, I would just say that, definitely don't say that. I don't think that's the right approach, but maybe that your opportunities and your career goals didn't align with the position that you were in. So you're just wanting to grow and look elsewhere.
All right. Any other questions here? Oh, all the way across here. Getting my exercise tonight. That's okay though. I like it.
If you're looking for let's say another opportunity, like if you're already at a big organization now, is that something that you look for having on your portfolio or something, or can you just kind of have that on your resume and then talk about that? Because for privacy purposes, you kind of can't display that information.
Yeah, we had kind of briefly mentioned that a lot of people may have signed NDAs where they can't put it on their portfolio. So of course, just having other things on your portfolio, of course, is always helpful. And absolutely, companies and hiring managers are completely aware, hey, they are currently at this position, due to some, signed NDAs. It's not something that they're able to do, but more than happy to go ahead and talk about the project that they've been working on. And maybe just on your resume, you're able to kind of paint a picture of, that ultimate, product that you have been working on without getting into details, if you are able to do that. Just kind of being a little overall. And then of course in an interview can maybe go a little more into that, but it's extremely understandable. Absolutely, especially in anything. Yeah, understandable.
All right, maybe one more. Yes, sure.
All right, so let's just say someone landed a contract work. Should they stop looking?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on the contract. Then the reason why I say that is because if they have made it very transparent to you and the manager and the vendor has said, this is a short-term 3-month contract or month-to-month contract, we are very transparent with our managers. They know that you need to have stability. All of us are trying to afford groceries right now. We know that you need work. But I would say that I would be transparent with your vendor that you are looking for other opportunities as well, because that could be something that maybe we can help with if we know that your end date is coming up on a contract. But also that also builds a relationship with you to not leave a bad taste in that client's mouth if you leave early, right? Because they're having the expectation that you're going to be there during this time. So it really depends again on if you know this is like a super short assignment. No matter what, if you're looking, I would just be very transparent with your vendor, because either A, we can help you if it's something that maybe you're having conflicts with internally, and that's why you're leaving, or this is not the right product for you. You could be on a contract within that company, but they could have 200 plus products that you may be a better fit for another product and be doing more of the work that you would want to do. So I would just have that conversation if you're working with the vendor, that this is why you would be looking, or and if there's any support that they could give you.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And I always say, like, never stop looking or just finding out what's out there, because you're only going to learn more about different projects and products that are coming out. And I think that's just great because it just furthers your knowledge and your education. And why not learn about other things that are going on? Now, maybe like taking an interview, if you know you're not going to accept the job, like going a little too far into it, but at least just learning. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You are just furthering your education, you're networking. There's nothing wrong with that. I talk to people probably, I would say, every other week that are extremely happy in their jobs, but they're like, I just want to know what's out there. I want to know what's going on in the world and what these companies are hiring for and what projects they've got going on. And it's only maybe they can bring that back to their company. But that is going back to kind of, having that conversation, being very transparent with, your vendor. At the end of the day, if you aren't happy at a place, that is why we have a great relationship with these hiring managers. So, maybe if we need to put you on a different contract, we work so closely with these hiring managers that we're able to say, hey, this might not be working out for this candidate. Let us grab you another great candidate for this. And so we're able to kind of continue to partner, with that vendor or with that client to be able to provide them yet another great candidate that's going to be, a good fit. And exactly true. You might just be, maybe on the wrong team in the company. And if they're just transparent, if this is just not the best cultural fit, where else could we potentially put you on and just find your strengths to go somewhere else? So.
And we got a couple more questions online. One from Annalise, who's come off of camera and off mute to ask herself about applicant tracking systems.
Yes, thank you. I have a question about my resume. I created it from a template in Figma, and I used a plugin, I think it's called Tiny Compressor, if I'm not mistaken, and then I downloaded it as a PDF. And so I've been using that in my application file. I came across some information, though, that might not be the best way to create resumes because it might not be readable to the ATS, to the tracking system, because Figma deals with their documents, I forget exactly the terminology, but more as pictures, so to speak, versus if you had like a Microsoft Word document or something that you made in Canva that has it's text-based. And so it's more easily read by the ATS. And so I tried to copy and paste the text that was in my PDF into like ChatGPT or Google Doc. And for the most part, it copies and pastes, but it adds some characters that are funky. Like at the end of each of my bullet points, it'll add like an N. And then the actual bullet point, it will make that a symbol. So I think it's legible. I think it still works, but I was curious what you think, if I should maybe redo my resume. I mean, I'd have to change the formatting. I like the formatting I have now, but I can't copy it in like Microsoft Word. But I was curious what you thought.
I would 100% redo your resume. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you're applying to a UX position, your resume, if it's not user friendly, is already going to be scrapped. That's your first impression, whether it's your portfolio or your resume and how it's read. Treat it like a case study. Treat your resume like a case study. For when a manager looks at it, how easily is it read? You know, is there any typos? Is there any weird symbols? Is there any weird spacing? Is there any too much white spacing or not enough? Or, you know, some of the fonts that you're using, font styles. All of those are very important when you send over, even if they're overlooked and you have the experience in your portfolio. So I wouldn't make it an extra barrier, because that's going to read, oh, if they think this is okay, what's going to happen when they sit in our product? And are they going to fix edits and things of that nature? So if my best advice is, I know it's extra work and it stinks, and we all hate doing resumes. That's why a lot of people don't leave their jobs, because they don't want to just do their resume. But that would be my advice, is to redo it.
But one question to any of you all about that. Do I do my resume for the visual content and presentation? Or like, I think she was also talking a little bit about like for the systems and the algorithm that's
Right.
reading it. So which
Yeah.
should I lean more toward? Because like a Word document's it's gonna go through a system really easy, but the manager might look at that and think, what is this? Yeah.
Good point. So there's two types of resumes, right? There's your Word doc resume that's a little bit more content heavy, and then there's your design resume. And so design resumes, you know, when we receive it, I haven't had any issues from looking at a PDF and being able to see a design resume. And some of my managers, they care more about having someone that could be able to put that more of their branding to it, right? So I would have both, just in case if you're having some issues. I haven't run across anything from if someone sent me a design resume and I'm not able to read it. Typically, we all have like PDF editors and things like that can be able to pick up. You know, again, I think what the ATS is worried about with those robots are the content that's in it. And if it picks up those specific keywords that maybe a manager's looking for, if you notice those, then I would go ahead and attach to, you know, and have something that's more heavier in content. That's more of like your true traditional resume, and then put your design resume with it too. That maybe would stand out. If you notice, if they've reached out to you and say, hey, this is not reading, or if you notice any issues with that.
All right, Jason, do you think we have time for one more question, or?
Short one about taxes, about working remotely. You pay taxes out of the state you're in, or where the company resides, and I think the answer to that is usually just where you live. There you go. Someone online asked if you get hired remotely from a company outside the state you reside, are you taxed where you live, or are you taxed where the company is located? If you're a contractor, you always pay just for the state that you're in, but sometimes there's different arrangements depending on how the company operates remotely, I believe.
Yeah, you're definitely taxed where you live, not for where the company's location is. We do have to attach you to a company location though, because there's some companies that may not be able to work within those states. So always be upfront too on where you live and where your residing location is, because it may not be eligible for hire. So if you want to convert in the future, there's some companies that can only convert in so many different states too. So I would just make sure that when you talk to a recruiter that you let them know where your home address is, so that we can make sure your taxing is correct, but also if that's an opportunity that you can convert with in the future.
All right, thank you, Sophia, for answering that one too. And how about this panel? This is amazing. These ladies. I got to tell you what, I feel so fortunate to have worked with two of the three up here, and who knows what the future holds, right? So, but really, this has been tremendous. The information, the wealth of information that we have here, you can hear the experience that is sitting in front of us right now. So please, I encourage you, reach out to them on LinkedIn. I think one of the slides had their emails on there as well. If you didn't get that, it will be in the recording, so you can circle back to that, or you can connect with people after the call or after the meeting here. And just again, let's give it another round of applause and thank you. You guys are amazing. So awesome.